I live on YouTube right now, peoples. My hair is not as I look
Okay.
like John
Well,
Luke's car,
yeah,
but there's hair here.
guess we're the intro music may or may not have worked, so that's cool.
I don't know if they heard
Um,
it or not, and if they did, I was talking over it, talking about my
right,
hair.
exactly. But
Oh, are we recording?
yeah,
We're
we're
recording right
currently
now.
recording.
I know we're
Yeah, I
live.
told you.
We're also recording.
That's what I said.
Wow. So wait, hang on. We're live and we're recorded. So people will hear us talk later and it won't be live, but we're live and we're recorded. Ooh,
Yes, sir.
technology these days.
I
I'm
mean,
telling you.
if I did it right, I may have totally messed this all up, and this is like the guinea pig episode, and
Oh,
then honestly, we could have gone like done a test run, but why do that now when we've never done that so far?
this is the attack of the radioactive hamsters from a planet near Mars.
Sure.
Okay. This is the slime creatures from outer space on a nature trail to hell.
Speaking of which,
Oh
um
boy.
I recently was able to
Mhm.
I listened to a podcast recently, and they did a movie pitch, and it was pretty awesome. I liked it enough so that I bothered to listen to the whole thing and then flip the script, I guess, and
Flip that
change it up a
script.
bit, put a little bit of tweaks into it, make 8 pages worth of it, and yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I will just leave it at that. That
Okay.
just let that be known. I did this thing, and it is for the better. I'm just gonna say that we have something special coming up for the 100th episode.
Oh,
Yeah.
nah,
Oh, I got
nah.
Lucas hanging out with
For
me
the 100th episode?
for the 100th episode. I know
So
it's
in
a
like
while.
86 episodes from now.
We're we are currently on episode, I want to say 88.
Oh, oh, oh.
Yeah.
I thought we were on 14.
I mean, of this season, but not of the whole show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
RU.com's is it's got 3 seasons so far.
Mm-hmm.
I think season 2 may have been our shortest season. I'm not sure. But we're on season 3.
Wow. That's pretty amazing,
Yeah,
actually. When you think
I
about
know.
it.
Right. We've been
That
around for such a long time, and what do we have to show for it? 6 fans.
six, six. Hey, that's great, but they're eager and they're willing, right?
Oh my.
Are they? I'm hoping they
Your
are.
camera is so much better. I need to get a new camera because
You need
my
to get
also
10
better
new
lighting.
cameras,
What?
12 new cameras. You need 13 new cameras.
Well, my camera, I'm looking and I'm kind of green and I don't feel sick. So it must be the camera or the lighting.
Oh boy.
Um, but let's move on to our first topic of the day.
Let's do it.
Um, have you heard of the Xtreme Justice League?
The Extreme Justice League? Are you talking about the Snyder
Extreme.
Cut?
No, 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 no. Real, actual people in the city of San Diego
Oh.
who are walking around, walking and talking
Oh,
in
yes,
their
yes.
superhero gear.
I have seen that. They dress up and they go to they hand out stuff to the homeless, right?
Right, right. They give out to the
Yeah.
homeless. They work with the police. They do safety patrols.
Pretty
In it,
amazing.
yeah, a few years ago when I was looking for a job, I checked Craigslist because why not? And I saw that they were recruiting. I haven't checked recently to see if they're recruiting, but they were at that time. That was like 3 4 years ago, and they're still standing strong. I still see them. It's pretty awesome because when I first saw pictures of them a while back, so like 3 or 4 years ago, it may have been longer than that. My whole time is all warped, but it didn't look as diverse as recently. It's a lot more diverse. I love it.
Interesting.
I'm very proud of them because
really cool.
Yeah, one of my friends saw it before and she was like, "Hey, they look kind of Proud Boyish."
Whoa.
And I'm like, "Oh no, I don't think they are." And she's like, "Well, look at who is in it." And I'm like, "Well, some of them you can't really see because they're wearing masks. But I can kind of see where you're
help
going
their
with
cause.
that.
They're wearing masks. So
What?
they're all wearing hoods. So I don't think that they're
No, well, you couldn't really tell how diverse it was if people are wearing, hoods and masks and not white ones that you're talking about. I'm just so yeah, no, I thought it was very interesting that like they're still out there and they're they've even spread out to let's see, they've got teams out in Florida, Texas, Oregon, and those are just the ones that I saw just skimming through the page. So yeah. Oh, and they have their own TikTok now.
Really?
Yeah. So cool. If you want to see a superhero doing the renegade, just go on the renegade. That was like, oh, that may have been mid TikTok. I don't know. Anyway.
Mid TikTok. So we're halfway through this midlife crisis for TikTok.
Possibly. It wasn't early TikTok. Early TikTok, no, you don't.
I don't. I was not an early adopter. I was still on Musical.ly at the time. No, I wasn't. Is that what it was called? Musical.ly?
Musically.
Musically?
What? Musically.
Is that a word? Musical.ly makes more sense. Because you're from California, right?
I think Musical.ly.
Oh, like he's the descendant of Robert E.
Right. but his it's his brother that was a composer.
Got you.
Yeah, no, that's yeah, that I think that's, I think it's kind of cool. How do you feel? How do you feel about vigilantes being out on our streets and doing that stuff?
Well, I don't think that they would like get into a gunfight with
you don't know
with the Joker if he was in an abandoned warehouse downtown that used to sell rubber chickens. I don't think.
Okay, but they are fighting the war
against homelessness. Right?
On homelessness. Hunger. Yeah, and hunger. There we go. I guess the war on hunger. They are out there giving out bags of sandwiches and all that stuff.
I think it's great. It's there are only a few causes that you can take up as a cosplayer, right? One of them being, OnlyFans. I don't know, like Twitch, like. There aren't too many, but you want to be a real legit hero, right? So I think that's cool. I think it's really cool. And San Diego is the perfect town for this because, when I first moved here, people would be like, look at all the freaks downtown. And so, occasionally you still hear people say that, but usually it's like, oh man, I'm going to Comic-Con this year. Like everybody talks about Comic-Con. Right. Even people that don't go there, they don't talk about, the freaks downtown anymore. It's more like, wow, okay, I'm not going downtown because it's busy. And so I think it's a really unique town. Everybody, they're going to move Comic-Con to New York. They have a New York Comic-Con. They're going to move it to LA. They have LA Comic-Con. Nobody cares. It's San Diego is the place for whatever reason. Right. So this is the perfect town for this type of thing to happen. America's city, named after a whale's vagina. It's classy. Let's keep it classy, and Hannah. But don't wear the hood, please. Just keep the hoods at home.
Yeah, don't wear the hood. Don't do that. Why? I mean, there was that one dude in Santee.
Yeah, I don't think he was handing anything out to the homeless. I think he was just
Idiot.
glaring at them. Oh, welfare queen. Oh.
Well, he was shopping. We don't know.
He could have been shopping for the
He
homeless.
was shopping at Sprouts.
The hood of the vendor. Yeah, we're going to rise again. Yeah, I don't think it was like that.
Uh, no.
I saw a documentary with those guys in it,
Oh,
actually.
really?
Yeah, it came out like 10 years ago. So that's why I was surprised it was
Wow.
still going on.
Right. Well, that's what I was saying. I was just surprised it was, they're still going strong from, like I said, I think maybe 5 years ago that I saw it, that I saw the ad. And I'm like, oh, they're still doing it. And I think there's even more people and they've spread to different cities. That's pretty great. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I mean, I've never gone out and like, tried to like help the homelessness, like that or whatever. But I've had a lot of conversations with homeless people because it's just open to, like talking to people or people. And
Yeah.
a lot of times people just walk past them, they're invisible. And sometimes they're in crisis. Sometimes they're, they've got issues going on and it makes conversation impossible. So you don't want to just like engage anyone, but occasionally you get into a really great conversation with. And downtown in San Diego, I had a really great conversation with a homeless lady at the convention center, not around Comic-Con or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And you just really see a person's humanity in those moments. So I think it's great. I think this is something that should be done more often. I think it's great that they don't like take selfies with themselves every time that they hand out something. Oh, here's a candy bar.
Well,
Do they?
I was gonna say it's pretty great, but at the same time, I wish there was a different way to say we're taking these to the homeless. They kind of, yeah, someone's recording them as they like, this is the box of stuff that we're giving out, and then you see them giving it to the person. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it, because
a little exploit
for sure they're not stopping and being like photo op, but at the same time it is somebody recording someone giving stuff to them. So
when I saw the documentary, obviously they were being filmed because it was for the documentary, but they went out every night, or I wasn't totally under the impression they went every night, but and I've never seen somebody out there doing it, but
I've never seen them though.
Yeah.
That's the thing, that they say they're out there, and I believe it. I'm not saying that they're not. It's just
stalking the street.
Where do they hang out? I just want to know.
By the gargoyles on the rooftops.
Maybe that's what they're doing. Maybe they're doing a Batman style where they just jump down. But no, they were handing out this food in the middle of the day. But I don't know. I've walked around downtown quite a couple of times and I've never seen them out there. So
yeah, you figure they just camp out in front of the library because that's where it's like really.
Maybe that's what it was. I didn't go as far as where the library was. I was over at Gaslamp Quarter. So
yeah, and that's not super thick with the homeless. They'll go over to the Panhandle, but they kind of sleep by the trolley tracks and stuff like that over by the library. But I don't know. It's if they're only doing what the cameras are rolling, then it's not cool. If they're doing it, if they're rolling the cameras to try to engage people to donate, then I think that's fine. You have to do stuff like that. But I don't think there's anything wrong with it in general. Just hopefully that they're doing it for the right reasons, which is to help people, not. I don't like the term social justice warrior or virtue signaling, because I think most of the time it's people that just don't. They're not in a bubble where like, okay, you're saying something and I'm going to tell you that you're not right because I have friends that I've talked to and they wouldn't appreciate that. Oh, you're virtue signaling to your friends. You want your friends to see that you're a virtuous person. Okay, aren't you virtue signaling every time you quote scripture? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
well, that's where I get caught up in, where you want to spread this information and you want to say certain things, but then you're like, if I post this because I found this great, site that gives me information, and this great site that it helps, like, this is a good place to donate to. If I post that, is it going to be seen as virtue signaling, or are people just going to leave me alone? And I mean, I've been pretty good at, I mean, not leave me alone, obviously. Like, are people going to look at it and not freak out on me for posting it? So I think it's been pretty good where I've posted things and, you know, friends are just like, oh, okay, cool. I'll check it out. But I feel that, yeah, sometimes, there will be, I've seen posts where people are like, hey, this is a pretty great website for information on X topic. And yeah, and then people are like, oh, well, are you virtue signaling, blah 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 blah. It's like they're just giving you information. Just let
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that
you're so woke because you know this website. Like, no.
Right. I think if
they're helping.
Yeah, it's about the context again. It's about the why you're doing it. If you're doing it because you're trying to get that hippie chick to think you're hot, then you're virtue signaling, right? But if it's like, hey, I learned this. I don't know if you knew this, but did you know that like in the indigenous people, like blah blah whatever, that's not virtue signaling.
Yeah.
But it's an easy way to shut somebody down.
Well, I think that's what one of the many problems that's going on right now in the world is that, I guess especially in the U.S., is that people like to use certain terms incorrectly.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say with something like just saying Karen. Everyone just uses Karen for everything now, and it's like, no, there was a reason for it. And then people are like, well, words evolve. It's like, no, yes, but no, stop.
Karen is the chick. That's horrible. The woman who said, "Ooh, Emmett Till whistled at me."
Right.
That's Karen.
There you go. Exactly. And so it's from terms like that, using the term Karen, and like if you're like, hey, please put on a mask, and people are like, oh, you're a Karen. Like, what? How
you're a passing Karen.
So it's everything from that, and I realize I might be too loud on my mic. Everything from that to let's continue with virtue signaling. Virtue signaling, you know, the proper way is, yeah, if you're using it just to be like, look at me, I'm amazing. No, you shouldn't be. So that, yeah. So I think that's what it is, that a lot of people are misusing terms, misusing just phrases, and it makes certain people afraid to do certain things.
Oh, for sure.
Or it causes arguments where there shouldn't have to be an argument. Someone's just wrong and that person doesn't want to be wrong. And yeah,
and they're in a bubble, so they're not used to hearing, you know, conversation that challenges their views. And so if you're, I mean, I had a recent thing where I just, again, we get into social media a lot because stuff that's going on, but I posted about how the guy that obviously he fetishized Asian women. Obviously, he drove around Atlanta, in a city where there's a population of 6% Asian people. He went to 3 different places that had Asian massage, masseuse or whatever, massage therapists, because these were probably not even dens of sex, sex workers or whatever. These were probably just massage parlors that had Asian women. Okay, so he thought they were sex workers because he said that was the whole thing. So clearly he's fetishizing these Asian women.
Right.
And he murdered them like they were nothing because he couldn't control himself. And at the same time, we've got a YouTuber who's in his 30s, mid-30s, who's trying to create content, quote unquote, by getting 20-year-old women drunk.
Right.
So that they can. And I was basically like, hey, guys, can we do better? And people were like, not all men. And like,
oh my gosh,
you're drawing this out of proportion. It had nothing to do with fetishizing Asian women. You're making it a racial thing and a misogynistic thing. Well, then what is it if it's not? What is it if it's not? He drove 3 different places and murdered Asian women specifically. Right. What is it if it's not? And we just can't have a normal conversation about this. And this is, the people that challenge it typically don't have a lot of Asian friends that are like, like, hey, could we maybe not punch my grandma in the face when she's walking down the street?
Right. I know. I'm sorry. I laugh because I'm just imagining that. It's like, what? Why? Why would you do that?
It
Why?
was crazy, and she beat the
What's
crap out of him, and they put him on the stretcher and took care of him while she stood with a swollen face, bleeding face, just stood there. She was still angry and like trying to
right?
hit him with her stick, but she's like a 70-year-old. When this is gonna sound horrible. When an Asian woman looks old, that she's older than you think she is. You know what I mean? Because Asian women, they keep their youth a lot longer than
Right.
most people. So you could tell she's somebody's. I think the term is nene. Um, I don't know. Stella,
Oh.
she does some of these terms sometimes that I get them wrong sometimes. But anyway,
Uh-huh.
you can tell she's my grandma, and she's just standing there like just bruised and beaten, and they're taking the white man out on the
That
stretcher.
I didn't know that was an actual thing that
Oh,
happened because I
it was
thought
awesome.
that the thing that you were saying, it like that whole situation I thought was so ridiculous. I'm like, yeah, that would be weird if that happened. That actually happened. What is
It
wrong with people?
happened. Yeah, it was pretty horrific. Um, she's okay. They actually put up a GoFundMe and they raised a lot of money. They didn't. Her family did not put it up. Somebody else put it up for the family, and the family was like, "Hey, it's great. Thank you for this. We don't want the money. We're going to give it to a cause to
Oh,
help
that's
Asian
great.
Americans," which I think is amazing. So
Yeah.
something good did come out of that horrible situation.
Which if there are any listeners out there, in our last episode there were a couple of links in the description if you'd like to check that out so you can help people out. Oh, and let's go to your subject or your
Okay,
topic. What
enough virtue signaling. Let's talk about something that's very important to me. Now, I am on a diet. For those of you who do not know, I am on a diet. I am trying to skydive by my birthday, which is in August. So that will hopefully be a topic of conversation after my birthday. I could talk about this experience of jumping from high altitude out of a perfectly good airplane. But I'm on a diet right now,
Mhm.
and of course, this is not a good time for anyone. The holidays are usually bad for trying to be on a diet. I actually put on a few pounds despite my diet because as Bill Burr said, you don't have a cheat day because you can't have a cheat day with something you're addicted to, right? So you can't just eat garbage food and expect, oh, my addiction didn't come back, right? But this is a terrible time. And I want to talk about why this is a terrible time to be on a diet. And that is because it is Girl Scout cookie
Oh my god.
season, right? And of course, Stella purchased some Girl Scout cookies and brought them home with her, even though we're both on a diet. What kind of Girl Scout cookies?
Hmm?
What's your favorite Girl Scout
Oh,
cookie?
what's my favorite? The
Mm.
one that's sweet.
Okay, well, that's each and every one of them.
There you go.
Yeah. But I'm thinking you're thinking of the one with the coconut on top.
No,
Is that what
I
you're
was
talking
thinking
about?
all of them, honestly. I'm a big
Oh,
fan. I was trying to decide between all of them which one's really my favorite. I like them all. My niece used to, I guess two of my, yeah, my two nieces, they used to do Girl Scouts stuff, thing, whatever
well, I used to do Girl Scouts when I was younger. Very,
the
very.
the thing the groups. There you go, Girl Scout group.
Yeah.
I was actually a what is it called, a Daisy Scout leader.
Oh.
Yeah. That was cool. You know, we got into a what is it called, one of the discussions that I remember the most is when we were talking about rules and why certain rules are there to keep you safe. I said even grown-ups have rules, like grown-ups are not allowed to drive fast or text when they're driving. And then three little girls are like, my parent drives or texts when they're driving. My mom texts when she's driving. My dad I'm like,
Wear a
okay.
helmet, kid.
And so I just like, all right, yeah, okay, well, as long as they're safe. And they're like, okay, or something.
Report them to the authorities.
Right. No. Yeah, so it was a pretty fun thing, but the whole selling cookies, oh man, I don't know how other people would do it, but we had a game plan.
Were you in front of the dispensary?
No.
Oh,
What
okay.
we were not allowed to. We were explicitly told do not, is that the correct way to say it? To use that?
Yeah, explicitly,
Explicitly
yeah.
told do not go to a dispensary and do that. Don't
That's
do it.
terrible. It's a great
But
idea. It works every
but
time.
in one of our little outings to giving out cookies, we stopped by at this one house. I see this lady coming out of a car, and she runs into her house, and then she comes back out and she has a bag of weed, like just clear. But I'm like,
One of the
because
Girl Scouts did this?
no.
Oh.
We were giving out when we were selling cookies. When we were selling cookies and we were going around the neighborhood, and there was a
That's
woman
hilarious.
who
She
went
just
into
came
her house,
outside.
and then she came back out, and then she got her bag of weed out of the car, and I was like, she's got weed. Hey, girls, go get her now. And so they hurried over with their little wagon. Excuse me, as she's like getting into the door, and she pops back her head back out. She's like, what? And they're like, do you want to buy cookies? And then I taught my younger niece to say, this is my first time selling cookies. Do you want to buy some? Like I said, we had a game plan. So the older
That
one,
works.
because they were fighting over, well, I want to knock on the door. No, I want to knock on the door. So I'm like, okay, the older one knocks on the door, good and like loud, boom, boom, boom.
Mhm.
And the younger one says, hi, it's my first time selling cookies. Will you buy some from me?
That's amazing. That's the perfect line.
And then she's like, but what if I forget? I'm like, it's perfect. If you forget what you're saying, if you stutter, even beautiful, do it. And I would say they sold a pretty good amount of cookies.
That's
And I
great.
specifically took them to the richer areas
Mhm.
nearby.
You got to do that.
um because I'm like, yes, all those cookies. But then I found
Yeah.
out that it's just like they only get a small percentage, and I'm like,
Mm.
oh, well, that was lame.
Yeah, I don't know how it does for. I mean, I know it's for fundraising. Here's the thing.
I think they got
There's
like
a
10% or
mm,
something, or 5 cents of each box or something like that.
well, they don't cost that much, like $2 a box. It's not
Yeah.
too bad, I guess. But I mean, I'm an Eagle Scout. I never sold the
Through and
popcorn.
through.
Yeah, I never sold the popcorn because I was never a Cub Scout, and Boy Scouts, I don't know, we didn't really care about selling anything. But here's the thing. I worked many years as a camp counselor, and I loved taking the kids on creek walks, nature hikes through the creek.
Mhm.
And the Cub Scouts would sometimes be pretty adventurous. You know, they might walk through the water instead of going, ew, it's wet. But generally it was, like, oh, I don't want to get dirty.
Mhm.
Um, we had the Girl Scouts come for a week at our camp, and I led them on a creek walk, and it had flooded. The creek was, not really. You couldn't really walk without getting in the creek. It was the most fun I ever had on a creek walk because these girls were swimming, and they were finding like lizards and salamanders and turtles and all kinds of stuff. They were running around all over the place. It was the most fun. And then afterwards, I thought this was the coolest thing because some of the older girls were like, well, we're off to our next thing. It's just over here. And I was like, oh, what is it? And they were like, oh, it's makeup. I was like, this is amazing. This is the coolest thing. Like, it's not, this is why when the Boy Scouts were like, oh, we're going to let girls into the Boy Scouts now. And the Girl Scouts were like, excuse me. I actually, even though I'm an Eagle Scout, I actually was like, yeah, excuse like that's okay. There's no reason to not allow a girl into Boy Scouts.
Mhm.
But if one's going to open up the doors to the other, it should have been the Girl Scouts, in my opinion, just because I think their organization is really interesting and neat. I like the Boy Scouts. I love the Boy Scouts, everything, but there's some issues with it. we don't want to really get into it, but
Right.
there's been lawsuits against the Boy Scouts.
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely.
There have been some issues with that, and I didn't really encounter anything like that during my time. But my experience isn't universal, of course. But I really enjoyed my week with the Girl Scouts. I thought that was amazing. As far as my favorite cookie goes, oh my goodness, I do like the Thin Mints, although I don't think they're as minty as they used to be.
Oh yeah.
I think they're great to put in the freezer. Everybody does that.
Yes,
Not really
definitely.
a life hack anymore. But I like the Tagalogs. Oh, I'm tagalongs. I don't know. I always call them Tagalog.
Every time I read that, I'm like, my brain just doesn't. Yeah. No. Same.
Really? That's funny. I like the new lemon ones. Those were really good. I'm actually into this box here. Let me see what brand it is. Trefoils. I haven't had them yet.
Oh, those ones are just the shortbread ones, right?
Shortbread. Yeah. They're only like 31 calories.
Yeah, they're only like not as popular.
Yeah, whereas the tagalongs are 70 calories per cookie, so twice as many calories. But I do like the little ones with the coconut and I think it's taro syrup, high fructose corn syrup. What is that on top?
I don't know.
It's very sugary. It's a sugar syrup or something that's on. Those are, I don't remember what they're called, but they're quite delicious as well.
You know what? What if the Xtreme Justice League formed a group with the Girl Scouts?
Right.
And together they formed, they could make like all these super hero girls in the Girl Scouts. Oh, that would be awesome.
And they could hand out Girl Scout cookies to the homeless.
I mean, yeah. They have people do have the option of just donating money and not actually purchasing cookies. We used to do that a lot. We actually had a good amount of people. They just said, "Here, take this money. I don't want to actually get any cookies. Get the cookies for someone else or something." And we're like, "Oh no, we can just donate it."
The best name for a Girl Scout sidekick is Tagalong.